On October 3rd, some friends and I went to go see the new Joker movie. After hearing a lot of buzz about the film coming out of the Venice Film Festival, I was pretty excited from the movie. And the first trailer for the film was one of my favorites of 2019. Plus, with the amount of comic book movies and TV shows, it was cool to see something that looked different. Joaquin Phoenix is a master of his craft, and to see him take a swing at the most well-known comic book villain in history was pretty intriguing. He's talked about comic book movies in the past and how he's particularly choosy in regards to the projects that he selects, so I imagine that anything he says yes to has to be pretty special, right? And honestly, anything this film does probably has to be better than the last time we saw someone portray the Joker.
You are my guests to this handsome honka.
So after seeing this film, I thought it was really good. I thought Phoenix gave one of the best performances of the year, and I thought it brought some much needed variety into the ever-growing library of comic book films. It was clear that Joker was inspired by movies from the past, and I don't even think that it was trying to hide that. But in seeing the visceral reaction that this film has received, and the fact that it is probably going to be nominated and maybe even win several Academy Awards, I think it's just made it more clear than ever that after seeing the film a second time, and the more I think about it, I think my opinion of the Joker has evolved into one that sees this film as just good. I think Joker is good. It's not a great movie. Hey. As I said, I still like the movie, but I think the film is getting a lot more praise than maybe it should be. Now, I think one of the main reasons that this film hasn't worked as much for me, and maybe some of the 31% of the critics who didn't like this movie, is that Todd Phillips is trying to make a movie that is reminiscent of films from the past, movies that film critics would probably be familiar with. Mainly movies like Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, both directed by Martin Scorsese, a filmmaker who, although has physically shaped American cinema as we know it, was at the receiving end of a ton of hate online for calling into question the legitimacy of comic book movies. But thankfully, yeah, we have movies like Joker to stick it to him and show that hack who's made the same movie for 50 years that comic book movies are I think it's one of my main complaints with Joker is that Todd Phillips feels like he doesn't actually think that comic book movies are real movies and instead is judging them like Scorsese judges them. That they're all these loud, expensive, vapid experiences that have no real interesting character. So in making Joker, he thought he could make a real movie that focuses on things like character and themes and topical issues such as the way the government has treated mental illness, poverty, and class. Too bad comic book movies and TV shows can't already do that. So instead, I think Phillips just looks to a filmmaker that he sees as someone who makes real movies and just does what he does. He makes a movie about a disgruntled man who has been cast aside by society and is fed up with it. He focuses all of his frustration and rage on a talk show host that he greatly admires, and in doing so, he becomes an icon for rebellion. Even the reception of Taxi Driver and Joker is similar. During its release in 1976, some audiences were worried that the film would encourage violence in its viewers. Now, I don't think that Joker is just good and not great because it encourages those who watch it to commit the same levels of violence that the protagonist carries out. I don't think that it's really doing that. But I do think that in combining these two films of Scorsese, Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, I think Phillips and, dare I say, a lot of the fans kind of missed the point of those two films. Now, this video isn't intended to say that if you like the film that you're wrong. As I said, I like it too. Instead, I do think that most audiences who have seen both films will agree that this movie isn't as good as Taxi Driver. However, I am saying that if you disagree with that, then you're wrong and stupid. Since its release in October, I've seen a lot of fans of Joker come out in droves in defense of the movie. I'm sure there are a number of you watching this who have or are going to comment on this video. A lot of the rather extreme fans of this film that I've encountered on the internet usually have the Joker as their profile picture on Twitter and usually tweet out videos or GIFs of the same three scenes. They usually talk about Joaquin Phoenix's performance and how this movie deserves to win every single Academy Award, even ones that it's not even in the category for. Like Best Animated Short, Joker should win it. It doesn't matter. It's the best animated short of the year. Again, I don't really care if you like this movie. That's fine. But I think this film and subsequently some of the fans have gotten some of the wrong ideas from this movie. With Taxi Driver, the film examines a man who loses touch with reality and follows him as he sees himself to be the hero. In acting on these violent impulses, it's a moment of catharsis for him, but terrifying for the audience. His outer directed anger is not intended to be shared by those watching the film. But in Joker, Arthur doesn't really have the moment of horrifying catharsis. When he transforms into the Joker, it's almost a fist-pumping moment for the audience, and I'm not really sure if that's supposed to be the point. And when Arthur is on Murray's talk show yelling about the society that we live in, it's since become a meme at this point. It doesn't feel like a natural culmination of what Arthur has been experiencing up to this point. We've seen him commit these types of violence before, so this moment doesn't really feel all that surprising for his character. As for the King of Comedy, it's a film that follows one man's constant humiliation, and in doing so, tells a larger story about the nihilistic dead ends of fans' celebrity worship and the culture that comes as a result of it, which is ironically kind of what we're seeing with Joker. This film has cultivated a crowd of fans who seemingly are waiting to pounce on anyone who dares to say anything negative about the film. Again, I'm sure that there are some of you who are watching this video as we speak. Both of Scorsese's films examine the foolishness of idolizing a character like this, but by mashing the two together into one character and choosing to remove a lot of the humor found in the King of Comedy and then putting a skin of a very popular comic book character on that mold, Phillips creates a protagonist that he doesn't really seem to have a firm understanding of in the way that Scorsese's two films managed to do, which subsequently has created another character who now joins the ranks of the many protagonists who fans seem to be kind of missing the point by idolizing. Now, I do think that Joker could serve as a nice kicking off point for a new subgenre of comic book films, ones that have a lower budget and tell a story that is focused on the character the film is studying and less on mindless spectacle. But I think where Joker falls short for myself is in taking the films of Martin Scorsese, one of the most influential filmmakers in the history of American cinema. When you do that and use them as a template for one of the most recognizable characters in pop culture, what you get is a film that doesn't live up to the films that it's imitating. Sure, the movie looks and sounds good, and Phillips goes for very similar interpretations of what New York City looked like during this time period. And hey, they've both got Robert De Niro in them, but instead of being inspired by what came before, Todd Phillips kind of feels like he's just redoing what Martin Scorsese already did, but only he's doing it worse.